Okay, your anxieties are actually opportunities. What does that mean? Well, first, I want to talk to you about some basic stuff that I think is straightforward. When you're hungry, you need to eat. When you're sleepy, you need to go to sleep. When you need to go to the bathroom, you go to the bathroom. No one's telling you to do this. No one ever instructed you how the feelings that you were feeling or the sensations that you were sensing meant that you were supposed to do those things necessarily. You learned over time what those signals meant to you. And perhaps we take that for granted. A lot of it we learned before we were even conscious or had tacit memory. We may have been potty trained before we were, even online with our memory. But suffice it to say, we have signals in our body. I put my hand on the stove, it hurts, I take my hand off the stove. Simple stuff, right? So I have this, I choose to believe that every single sensation or feeling can be taken at face value, and that there's merit in this view. So, like I said, if I'm hurting, if I feel pain, there's something I may need to do, and there's an adjustment that I need to make to alleviate that pain. So I don't look at anxieties as some nebulous, misunderstood feeling that needs to just be buried. I believe that they should be taken at face value. There are exceptions. I understand that wires can get crossed, but I'm talking about on the whole that these feelings mean something. No different than your hunger, your sleepiness, your need to go to the bathroom, or pain, or anything else. And perhaps we have been disconnected from the language of our own body. And we do not know what the signals mean anymore. So these anxieties, let's start here as the baseline. They don't come out of nowhere. So there's this whole philosophy of existentialism that looked at what does it mean to even exist? Why are you even here? And what does it mean to be? Because there are many things that you will feel anxious about. It could be a clash of wills with somebody else. It could be you procrastinating on a project or a deadline, and you're feeling that anxiety to finish it. But there's the biggest of all anxieties that existentialism covered, and that was the fact that you will one day cease to exist and there is nothing that you can do about it. So let's start off with this one anxiety and translate it. Because there comes a time where you become aware of this fact, and it is it obviously can cause you a lot of anxiety. But the whole point is, let's walk through it one step at a time. Why are you even feeling anxious about it? I mean, animals don't seem to have a problem with this. They don't seem to care about the fact that they're going to die one day. Perhaps they're not even conscious of it. Maybe they are. I don't know. But it seems to be humans that have a problem with this. Well, the whole point of you being anxious when you come across this fact is that your time is finite. And if your time is finite, that means you need to choose what you're going to do with that time carefully. And if you haven't been choosing what to do with your time carefully and thoughtfully, and what your true purpose is here, then by all rights, you should be feeling anxious. Because the standard that apparently, I didn't write the rules, this is the standard that nature has set. The human condition is that we feel anxious if we are not addressing our finitude and what we are going to do here. So there's all sorts of ways that we choose to get around this. This is where, among many other things, like addictions escapism, all the different forms of entertainment. Although entertainment's not bad in and of itself, I'm just talking about the complete escapist route to get into these different modes of life to avoid these anxieties. And there's the much darker path where things get suppressed to a point where you have psychopathy and other medical conditions that can arise. Now, so you need to address this anxiety one way or the other, and you kind of have, I don't know, let's just say three options. You have the option to bury it and drive it so deep into the unconscious that you never really have to worry about it again, and that works to a degree, but there's consequences to that. It can materialize in a medical condition, perhaps, or you're just going to take my word for it. I'm not proving any of this, but it could manifest in a different way. There's I love this quote from Carl Jung: "What you resist persists. What you embrace transforms." So the anxiety doesn't go away. So you could force it into the unconscious, which is equivalent to the body, and the body will have to deal with it. And so it will emerge in different ways. So that's one way, you just bury it. Another way is you go down the path of psychotropic drugs. So you have Big Pharma, who offers you a series of medications or whatever it is to help you alleviate this anxiety. And my comment on this is that I don't fault anyone for feeling anxious. I'm a human being too. I know that what it's like to endure the human condition. And I would never deny that that people can struggle to the point where they absolutely need help. There's no doubt about it. And so when they're given this option of alleviating that anxiety or alleviating that pain, I completely understand why you would do that. If you do not know how to address the anxiety on your own, you just don't know. So that's the point of like videos like this, is there is a form of education there, and that needs to be brought to society at large. And there's this common thread here. Like if you take, as a guy, I could take testosterone therapy. There is 100% guarantee if I take testosterone, my body will stop producing testosterone on its own in enough time. And then if I were to get off of the testosterone therapy, I would go through withdrawal effects and I have to slowly turn back on my own natural testosterone production. And the stats on this are 5% of males that get off of testosterone therapy will never produce testosterone on their own again. What does this tell us? This is true for like other parts of your endocrine system. Anytime that you have this supplemental effect going on, your body becomes, it realizes, oh, if I can externalize this manufacturing process, then I'm going to take the path of least resistance. I don't know where this is coming from. I don't know why it's happening, but I will now externalize this process to save. Why am I producing testosterone if I'm getting it from somewhere else? Likewise, if you are taking in a psychotropic drug to allay the anxiety, the musculature, the psychomusculature required to engage with this is no longer necessary. And I'm saying this because I don't think that informed consent is happening here, meaning I want you to know what's at stake when you take a psychotropic drug. Big Pharma certainly isn't going to tell you, oh, by the way, you might lose a lot of your own self-sovereignty and how you're going to address some psychic issues in your life. So there's two sides of this coin. I understand why somebody would turn to psychotropics because they just don't know, and they have no other option. But there's also, I'm just saying from my own point of view what those consequences are and what they could be for you. So again, we've just covered two options. You have the option of dealing with anxiety. You could just bury it. You could address it with a psychotropic, which may or may not work. And there's the third option, of which you learn how to engage with the anxiety itself. Okay, so how the hell do you do that? Well, I don't think it will be easy, because I think the first step is you just got to sit with it. Because if you're operating in a vacuum and you don't know anything, and you have to sit with the actual anxiety and try and suss out what is it trying to tell you. For example, a common anxiety I think a lot of people feel, so particularly for women, they feel the biological clock. A lot of women might feel the need to have a child, and that can cause a lot of anxiety and prompt. So how do you relieve that anxiety? You go out and I don't know, try and marry a man or whatever you need to do to get that process going. And that solves the problem. They relieve the anxiety. But that initial step of understanding where it's coming from, that might manifest in your dreams. Because if you really have to give it space and time to truly feel it. Now, I'm not in anybody else's skin. So I can't tell you how hard or easy this is going to be depending on what anxiety it is. Okay? So you might very well be traumatized to the point where if you try to sit with this anxiety, what if you can't? That could totally be a possibility. I'm not in your skin. I'm not your dad. So, but I acknowledge that there's going to be some difficulties here for people on this huge spectrum of all of us getting through this. Okay, so I've never faced something that I couldn't sit with. The only way, there have been difficulties, but if I'm jogging my memory here, I have to give myself more time, more space. If it's something I can't deal with in the moment, I have to make the conscious decision to say, I need some personal time. I need some personal space to deal with this because I'm not going to do this on the fly. So there have been difficult things, but I've never faced something that's completely broken me. You know, and I think my most difficult ones, now that I'm thinking about it, I didn't know what to do. Okay, so I didn't know what to do with it, and I had to set it off until years passed. And I was able to readdress the psychic issue, the actual anxiety, with deeper understanding, deeper wisdom, and I was able to deal with it years down the road. So it is true to say that there are things that I was not able to address. I was just too dumb, to put it lightly. I didn't know enough. I didn't know what to do. So again, to extend a bit of empathy here, there's going to be situations and people in varying degrees. That's just the truth. Maybe you don't have what you need, the tools that you need to deal with whatever this particular anxiety is. Why? So to me, this is a bigger issue on our society and our culture, what we value, what we're teaching our children. I think that we would be stronger if we taught how to deal with these issues face to face. But I don't think, we know it's not being taught. We know Big Pharma's in there to come and swoop in. They're taking advantage of the fact that we are ignorant of how to deal with these issues, is what I'm trying to say. So, let's say you practice this and you get a little better at it each day. Because I do think that there's value in therapy. Like if you hit a roadblock, I've never gone to therapy, but I definitely have heard about the benefits of it, and that might be something to help. You get frozen. Perhaps your thoughts are frozen. You're not able to process. It is very useful to have somebody else help you get through the process. and help process some of your emotions and help think things through for you and with you. If you're frozen up and you're blocked, you can't make any progress on your own, so therapy is definitely an option. But let's say you've done a lot of groundwork. You've gotten to the point where you've got a lot of tools in your toolbox. You're not wet behind the ears anymore. You're able to address a lot of these issues on your own. Eventually, your anxieties can become your greatest friends. Because what they are doing is they are telling you the next step to live a more fulfilling life. No different than taking your hand off the stove, no different than going to the bathroom. These are the necessary next steps. Because if you didn't do them, you would feel terrible. And ultimately, the big boy, the big ultimate anxiety of your time is limited. To address that one is ultimately addressing why you were here. And I wish you luck on that journey, because I don't think it would ever be easy. Maybe one day down the road, if our culture changes enough, maybe we won't even think of it that way. And maybe this will become so much more natural, and because we're just more knowledgeable and we teach this to our children, the ways of addressing our anxieties and our emotions and the signals, the language of the body, and having that deeper body intelligence. But until then, it looks like we're just barely scraping our way out of the dark ages, man. Take a look around. I think it's not an exercise that I do, it's just something I naturally do. As I'm driving home from work, or I'm just driving around, I'll see people in their cars, and the look on their faces, that's the look they have when they think nobody else is looking. I see a lot of distraught people, anxious people. So, that's just where we're at. So, I believe that anybody who's meant to listen to stuff like this or any other video on this, if you're searching for it, you'll find it, and hopefully you'll find a better next step for you. So yeah, I wish you luck on your journey. I don't know how hard or easy it will be, but yeah, your anxieties are your opportunities. They're the next step. It's what you need to address next. All right. That's all I have to say on that.